Since Bitcoin was invented, everybody has been trying to answer the question, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? But maybe we should ask a different question. Should we stop looking for Satoshi? Let's mine deep. People have been trying to pin down several individuals as Satoshi for nearly 15 years. Hal Finney, Adam Back, Nick Szabo, Elon Musk, all of which have either denied being Satoshi or lacked the smoking gun evidence to make the connection. One thing is certain, out of 8 billion people, the only one who isn't Satoshi is Craig Wright. Let's be honest, Satoshi Nakamoto doesn't want to be found. After disappearing from public forums in 2010, Satoshi has made no attempts to reveal their identity. He went out of his way in 2014 to clarify that he is in fact not Dorian Nakamoto, a real computer engineer in California who happened to unfortunately have the same name. And you can't blame him, or she, or they. And no, that's not a pronouns thing. Some people think Satoshi was actually an account run by multiple people. But let's be real, uncovering their identity wouldn't make Bitcoin any better and might even hurt whoever Satoshi really is. Don't believe me? Just look at Ross Ulbricht in prison for creating a free marketplace on the dark web, or Julian Assange, locked up in a 2x3 room with only 1 hour of sunlight a day for 13 years for creating WikiLeaks. Satoshi created hope for the people and fear in those with limitless power. You think after decades of ruling the people, the government, big corporations, and the Federal Reserve would just let Bitcoin's creator roam free?
You guys gotta stop speculating on who Satoshi is. It's so fiat of you. It's childish. You sound like a bunch of frat brothers trying to social climb up the curve.
Was when we started getting threats and people saying that trying to extort Bitcoin from us.
So that was happening while he was still alive?
While he was still alive. We had an attack.
Next point. Satoshi would be one of the wealthiest humans on Earth. His Bitcoin holdings are estimated to be around 5% of the whole Bitcoin supply, around 1 million Bitcoin, worth about $56 billion in today's currency. If Bitcoin rises to 300,000 a coin, whoever Satoshi is, they would be the wealthiest person on the planet. So why should you care? The anonymity of Bitcoin's creator is not just a trivial detail. It is a fundamental aspect of Bitcoin's identity. Satoshi's decision to step back and let Bitcoin evolve without a central authority reinforces the concept of decentralization. Bitcoin is designed to operate without a single point of failure, and knowing Satoshi's identity could accidentally create a central figure whose influence might skew the decentralized nature of the network. Bitcoin's ethos lies in the fact that it isn't tied to any one individual, nation, or entity. It's a global, borderless currency governed by code and consensus, not by the whims of its creator. Besides, they always say, never meet your heroes. As Jameson Lopp wisely noted, Satoshi's greatest gift to the world was Bitcoin. Satoshi's second greatest gift was to disappear. While you can never stop nosy people and prying eyes, let's keep the legend alive and focus on the revolution Satoshi started, not the person behind it.
Don't miss Adam Back Backstage.
You've been one of the few who interacted with Satoshi Nakamoto in the early days. Can you describe what those interactions were like and what stood out to you about Satoshi's vision and technical acumen?
So I just exchanged emails quite early. So like fall 2008 when Bitcoin was released in January 2009, I guess, right? And so there weren't that many emails. They were more about the paper. I think he'd already implemented Bitcoin, and then he wrote the paper, and that's what he says somewhere on Bitcoin Talk afterwards. I went and read it all afterwards, right?
And given your deep involvement in the early days of Bitcoin and cryptography, why do you think maintaining anonymity was so crucial for Satoshi?
I mean, I think the cypherpunks were quite interested in anonymity as a kind of way to preserve privacy online, which, you would otherwise lose due to technical side effects of, ISPs logging and things like that. So, but in the particular case of Satoshi starting Bitcoin, I think it would be perhaps politically risky. I mean, a reason to suppose that would be the case is that the people who ran eGold, which was a kind of website that had physical gold storage and you could pay each other using gold, they got into regulatory problems, they had legal difficulties, implemented PGP, and then was under investigation by the US government. So anything to do with sort of privacy or electronic cash or payments can invite sort of regulatory scrutiny or legal issues. So, for somebody who'd seen that history, that it sort of makes sense that he would, try to just be a developer and not be on camera or be identified. That he must have resolved to do it before he sent his first message, kind of thing, right? So it seems like there was no mistake, no accidents in his operational security, or OPSEC, as people say. Well, I think it sort of inspired a lot of other people. Like, there's a lot of people using social media handles and with no picture, no real name attached. So, yeah, I think people drew a lesson from it or started a kind of social media behavior that's cool to do that now or something, yeah.
And many have drawn parallels between your work with Hashcash and the proof of work concept in Bitcoin. How do you view your own contributions into the context of Satoshi's creation? Do you think Satoshi might have been influenced by the broader Cypherpunk movement?
It's an interesting question about whether he knew about some of the earlier electronic cash ideas, because there were several ideas discussed on the Cypherpunk list, including one that was implemented. So, of course, there was DigiCash, which was a centralized system, but at least in terms of the attempts to make decentralized cash, there was B-Money by Waydai, BitGold by Nick Szabo, and those were in 1998. And then Hal Finney had implemented a sort of centralized version called RPower, Reusable Proof of Work, in 2004. And it didn't seem necessarily that Satoshi was aware of those, but obviously he was aware of Hashcash because he used it, and those systems were also using Hashcash. People immediately saw it as a potential building block to try and build decentralized cash, and they realized they needed decentralized electronic cash because the centralized one, DigiCash, had failed.
What do you believe is the most significant contribution or legacy of Satoshi to the world of cryptography and decentralized systems?
I mean, I think the fact that Bitcoin is decentralized and bearer is very interesting, and how that, one of the key innovations of how that's achieved. I mean, one is a technical thing, it's a difficulty adjustment, which people hadn't figured out how to do before, and I think that's why those previous B-Money and BitGold and RPower didn't take off, is because they hadn't figured that out how to do that. And I think the other thing that sets Bitcoin apart from previous schemes is it's fully auditable. And so, everybody can verify everything about the network, so you don't have to trust anybody else. And there are very few systems with that characteristic. So I think that's a key part of Bitcoin's properties and success, actually.